Welcome to another episode of Ron's Reloading Channel. Today we're gonna review the Hornady's new Click Adjust Seating Micrometer. Stay tuned. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I want to set up my sizing die to load 30-06. So I'm just inserting my sizing die. I'm loosening up the lock ring right now. I want to back the die out, bring my ram up, and then I'm going to turn the sizing die down till it hits the shell plate. Once I do that, I'm going to lock my lock ring in. With this being brand new brass, I'm going to use the Hornady case sizing wax, and I'm just putting a little bit on the case, and then I'm going to run it up through the ram. It doesn't take a whole lot of sizing wax to put on these cases. Now that we have our cases sized, we want to chamfer and deburr the case mouth. Now when chamfering and deburring your case mouth, it doesn't take an extreme amount of pressure. So we're just wanting to get the burrs off the edges of the case mouth. Once I get that done, what I'll do is I will just wipe the brass off to get the wax off. So the primers that I will be using are CCI BR2 to load into my brand new Starline 30-06 brass. I'm using IMR 4064 for my powder, and I am throwing my powder charge at 53.4 grain. I'll be using a Hornady SST 150 grain projectile to load into the 30-06 brass. Now we're going to set up our seating die with the Click Adjust Micrometer. You just simply want to unscrew, and you'll want to take off this rubber O-ring along with the metal ring. And I'm just going to put the seating die in the press. And what we're going to do is we're just simply going to screw the Click Adjust seating onto the die. So now that we have the Click Adjust seating micrometer attached to our seating die, we're going to go ahead and set the die. And we want to run the case all the way up to the ram, and we're going to turn our die down till we feel tension. And since I have a reference point with the H in the line that's going on the die, I'm just going to back it out one turn, and then I'm going to set my lock ring. So now we have a case, and we're ready to seat our 150 grain SST projectile. So what I do is I'll run the click adjustment up pretty high, and I will just barely seat the projectile, and then I will use my caliper to get my measurement. So right now I'm at 2.798 and I need to be at 2.635. Okay, so I have a difference of 1.63. So what that's going to represent is I will need to turn this 163 times, and it should get me down to the CBTO measurement of 2.635. So there's 150. There's 100. There's 150. So I'm gonna seat the round again and let it push the projectile up, and I'm gonna measure again. I would rather be too long than too short. So now I'm down to 2.6475, and I need to be at 2.635. So to be on my mark, I will need to turn the seating die 13 clicks. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it down 12 clicks because, as I said, I would rather be too long than too short. So with those 12 clicks, I'm going to be pretty darn close to 2.635 for my CBTO. I'm at 2.6355, so I'm good with that. If I want to take it down one more 1,000th of an inch, just one click. So now we'll just see if we are spot on with our setup. So I'm at 2.6345. I can live with that. I strictly reload for hunting and not bench rest shooting. So I'm at 2.635. 2.6355. As you see here, I have a Hornady 30-06 case gauge. So what I will do is I'll drop them in just to make sure that they will chamber. So once again, this is the Hornady 30-06 case gauge. Just drop it in and make sure that your case is flat and that it comes completely flush. Just simply pop it out. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to set up the die to do a very, very light crimp. So I loosened up my lock ring and I want to back out the die just a little bit. So I'll run the case up into the die and I'm just going to turn the die clockwise till I feel resistance. So I've got resistance now. I'll bring the case back down and I'm going to ever so slightly turn my die again clockwise. Maybe like a 32nd of a turn. Once I do that, I'm going to lock my lock ring down again. And I will fill the slightest of cam over. And then I will go back to my case gauge and I will check just to make sure that it is still seating flat and flush with the top of the case gauge. Just like that. So for the final test, what I will do is I will actually load the rounds into the magazine. This is my Winchester Model 70 30-06 featherweight. And I will run them through just to make sure that they cycle fine. You can see how easy that they do cycle. And we'll go at it this way. And I will run the bolt a couple of times just to make sure that I've got everything out of the chamber. And then I'll lock the safe in to where the bolt can't move. What I would like to point out to some of you newer reloaders out there is that you can see that my projectile is not seated down to the cantilever. And that's fine because I measured the case base to ogive versus the cartridge overall length. So this is perfectly acceptable. And we saw how smooth that this round chambered in my Winchester Model 70. With this video that I put together, I hope that it helps some of you new reloaders out on what to look for and what to expect when you're loading bottleneck cartridges such as the 30-06. Till then, we'll see you next time.